Hi guys, back with the Maw of Mischief, Ignite, Stone Golem build. I got a comment asking for a high budget version of the 5x build I put out. The guy said he had a lot of currency and a Mageblood, so I decided that I would just put together a POB. The gear here is not realistic, but it's just to give you an idea of what upgrades you can go for, and this is easily in the realms of like 300 like 300x just from the Mageblood alone. But yeah, just running by the numbers, the minion life we have on this, we have 350,000 Stone Golem life, which is more than twice of what I have on my build. And for Death Wish, the minion explosion itself, we are hitting 20k Ignite DPS on Cyrus, which is a lot, which is a lot of Ignite DPS. We aren't even running Convergence, and we don't even have Elemental Overload. So that just gives you an idea of how much damage you're getting. I invested a lot into defenses in this tree because the goal was to have it viable to clear the feared or released at once, and I think this would do a pretty good job at dealing with that. So the first part that I want to talk about is just the main changes from the 5x build and the main components that really boost the damage and survivability. One main thing is this jewel right here, Elegant Hubris. This is a really good slot for it because you're pathing through to get the Glancing Blows, which we are still running, and you pick up all of these notables along the way. And so what you are looking out for is the notables along here, and in this cluster over here, because you can get the 3 of these for just no travel points. You can just get them right here. The 3 nodes that you're looking out for is minions have 80% increased life. This is huge. This would basically give our Stone Golem like a lot of life, like 35k life from one node. The other one is Robust Diet, which is 10% increased maximum life. We need this because this is going to override this life cluster which we normally take, and so we need a bit more life just to hit 6k max life. The other one that we can get is Slumlord, which is minions deal 80% increased damage. So if you divine an Elegant Hubris right here and get, I would say, like 3 or 4 of these, that would be good enough. But you can have the potential to get 5 pretty easily, and you can even get this one, which is just at the cost of 1 travel node if you get a good roll on this one as well. Another thing we get by socketing Elegant Hubris here is getting Supreme Ostentation. So we want an Elegant Hubris with the Caspero mod. And Supreme Ostentation basically lets you ignore all the attribute requirements that you need. So you need Strength and Dex, Dex for the Swift Affliction and some of the gear, and you bypass the Strength requirement on Calms. So that's really nice. The attributes don't give us much anyway. As you can see, we have a lot of intelligence just from pathing, but we don't scale Energy Shield, and mana is just it just bumps us up to about like 1,000 mana. Yeah, it just gives us some mana, which doesn't really do much. Dex doesn't do anything, and Strength, since we don't have that much, this doesn't give us that much life anyway. And the other good thing is that this is really along the way of the pathing, so it's just 1 point. And on all our gear, now we don't need to find any Strength or Dex, which is a huge hassle. We don't need to take any of these nodes or practical application down here for Strength and Dex. So that saves us a lot of passive points. So the other big change that we have is with the belt. So previously I was using a Darkness Enthroned, and now we have a Mageblood. Yeah, for those of you who have a Mageblood, absolutely incredible unique item, and this basically lets us have permanent flasks up, and so this solves our defenses by a lot. I recommend running one of each of these elemental flasks, Ruby, Topaz, and Sapphire, because of the 20% lightning damage, cold damage, or fire damage taken mod. If you enchant this with an enkindling orb and get increased effect, along with the increased effect on the prefix, basically you're getting 40% less elemental damage taken with these 3 flasks, permanent uptime. And this is on top of the glancing blows and defense that we have. So this would make you extremely tanky. For mapping, I would probably swap these out for something like a Basalt Flask or a Bismuth Flask or a Quicksilver just for the mobility. But again, this is for the Feared, so we want as much defense as possible, and we have way more than enough DPS to handle it. For the last Flask, I just ran a Granite for the extra armor because there is a lot of fizz damage mitigation just coming from this one Flask alone. So by running this belt, it basically lets us become elemental ailment immune as well, from the immune to ignite and immune to shock modifiers. So we took out purity of elements on the auras and we threw in a determination and a defiance banner just to get the armor up to make us a bit more tanky. So let's talk about the gear. First off, the scepter. You are not getting the scepter unless you throw in like hundreds of exalts into crafting. Insane amount of damage of time multiplier, fire damage, spell skill, and physical skill gems to scale Stone Golem. This is just all the mods that you want. So if you are missing out on a prefix or a suffix, it is more than fine. But this is the ideal POB scepter. Next, for the Magna Eclipses, we want a double corrupt. You really just want the +1 level of socketed gems. The 5% increased life is nice. It's not mandatory, but it is very nice and it goes a long way to giving us life. But really, all you need is the socketed gems corrupt. For the helmet, there aren't really any crazy corrupts you can go for. Just a normal Maw of Mischief is fine. Calm's Heart, you will also want a double corrupt with increased damage and increased maximum life. But again, you can probably go without the damage or without the life. This is just a relatively cheap corrupt compared to like Mageblood, for example. For the gloves, boots, it's kind of the same. You just want fire damage multi and life, and ignites deal damage faster, movement speed, and wherever you can, you want chaos res because that frees up your flask. You don't have to run an amethyst flask, and you can run something else. So you want chaos res, fire damage, and you want this on an armor base with as much armor as possible. Now the amulet is another thing that would cost you a bunch of money. This is, again, a crazy amulet that you're not going to get. Fire damage over time, multi, damage multi, physical strength skill gems. Again, you can just have +2 gems and a fire dot multi on it, and it would be more than fine. Again, free suffix for resist or chaos res. You don't really need resist because Mageblood covers that with these 3 flasks. Barracks Respite, you want a corrupt, either cannot be poisoned or cannot bleed. And this will solve just those ailments which you can't solve with, we just don't have enough flasks for that. And this corrupt on POE trade is going for about, I would say, under 10x. So yeah, pretty possible to get, not that difficult. You want more life on your second ring and the flammability on hit. Now you want the 32% increased effect as much as possible. Again, a lot of prefixes and suffixes that are up to you. And last but not least, Mageblood, obviously. Not much to say about it, just gives us free flasks. Now for the jewels, make sure that all your primordial mites have a corrupt. And so we want corrupted blood cannot be inflicted on you, we want cannot be hindered, and cannot be maimed. And this just solves all of these different ailments and status conditions. We, as mentioned, we are running an elegant hubris, and this is socketed right here. Let's go over the gems. Not much has changed. It's just everything is max leveled and quality. So we have Summon Stone Golem. Oh, this should be 23 because this gives us minion maximum life, minion life, and power 4. Again, socketed and Magna Eclipses. As you can see, Stone Golem is leveled 34, which is crazy. That's a lot of levels. For Maw of Mischief itself, the Death Wish, Everything Awakened, Deadly Ailments, Unbound Ailments, Swift Affliction, and Burning Damage. Level 6, 20 quality. For the auras, Determination, Malevolence, Tempest Shield, and Defiance Banner. You can squeeze all of this and have 46 unreserved mana. Now, Death Wish costs 13 mana to channel, so it might be a bit tight, but you can probably get all of the 5 stages off because you do have some mana regen. If not, you can probably drop the Defiance Banner, but this would drop like about 10k armor, which is really nice, as well as the reduced crit. Because of that, we want to run all the other skills as low mana cost as possible, so we leave them at level 1. Elemental Aegis is granted by Magna Eclipses, Flammability is from the ring. So yeah, Wave of Conviction, Arcanist Brand, we leave those at level 1 to cost as little mana as possible, because every time Wave of Conviction goes off, that's like a quarter of your mana gone. And we have Combustion for the Ignite debuff. Convocation, again, level 1, because it does not give you more cooldown as you level it up. You only get that from quality. So we have 23 quality and level 1 Convocation. All it does is give you more life regen from it, which we don't really need. Cast when damage taken with Molten Shell. You can run a high level cast when damage taken if you want. Personally, I just prefer the lower damage threshold. But if you want to run a high level Molten Shell, feel free to do so. Take note that Molten Shell does benefit from the added spell levels, and this will affect cast when damage taken's threshold. So now you can see it requires level 40 or lower, and even though this gem says it requires level 24, it's actually 7 plus 4, so that brings it up to 11, and 11 is a level 40. So this is basically the level that cast when damage taken can support it. And Frostblink is just a mobility skill. You can swap this out for Flame Dash, but we don't have a lot of mobility. Sorry, we don't have a lot of cast speed. So I prefer the Instant Blink. Again, you can run this at max level, or you can run this at level 1. At max level, it does have a lower cooldown, so that's just something to consider. Otherwise, all the jewels are roughly the same as before. So again, the passive tree is very similar to the previous one. Not much changing to be done. There's nothing really you can do with Thread of Hope or Intuitive Leap or anything like that. The main change is the Elegant Hubris, and also that we pick up this life cluster on the side. Now this is also optional if you get enough life from this Elegant Hubris, but without this we are down to 130%, so that's pretty little. This also just lets us get another jewel socket, so that means we can put in the Ghastly Eye Jewel with the minions have increased maximum life, you have maximum life, and minions deal increased damage if you use the minion skill recently, and this gives a lot of damage. So instead of the Ghastly Eye Jewel, you can put in a small cluster jewel with Fettle. This would just give you a bit more life, so without this, we are just barely under 6k, and this gives us like 500 more life from these 4 points. And this is just because we don't have that much access to the life, and you can probably take this out. But remember that we still need enough jewel sockets for the Primordial Might, since now we're running Elegant Hubris here, so you do want to get this jewel socket for Primordial Might. Again, you could just use the Voices. If you have a Voices 3 node or a 1 node, that's definitely worth it. One change is to the Ascendancy tree. I decided to, instead of going for Heart of Destruction, I opted for Bastion of Elements just to make you that much tankier to elemental damage, and also to solve Reflect, because we are not taking this node anymore. We can't get the Elemental Reflect Mastery. So we're using this to solve it, and honestly, at 20 mil Ignite DPS, I don't think we need that much more. You can get Area of Effect just from like Burning Bright and Widespread Destruction in the cluster. So one thing I realized after recording was that Bastion of Elements Primal Aegis does not stack with Elemental Aegis from Magna Eclipses. So if you don't want to take this, you can get Elemental Reflect Immunity by still getting this Mastery if you have a good node from Elegant Hubris on here. Alternatively, you can get Soul of Yugal for your Pantheon, and this gives you, if I can see it and not get blocked by everything, this gives you 50% reduced reflected taken, and you can also put it on your ring. This is a hunter mod, so you can Warlord Hunter it, so you get flammability and reduce reflected elemental damage. But that's a lot of work, so I would suggest just doing this. Alright, so now we can talk about the defenses. We have a lot of elemental defense, just thanks to these flasks. I actually don't see people running Ruby, Topaz, and Sapphire much, probably because it just takes 3 slots and you'd rather run like a Quicksilver. But these make you really, really tanky. 40% less elemental damage taken, and you can see in our effective health pool. Oh, sorry, this is the minion stats. Let me just swap that. Yeah, so this is our health pool. This is a good amount of EHP, all things considered. Now consider that this is on top of the Bastion of Elements, which gives us Primal Aegis. And this isn't just against hits, because the reduced damage taken from the flasks apply to damage over time as well. So if you're standing in burning ground, or I don't know if any mobs have like a cold snap kind of ground, cold degen, you have a lot of EHP against that. Now the main thing is chaos damage and physical damage. So for chaos, you can swap in an amethyst flask to cap your chaos res, and that should pretty much leave you set against any chaos hits. Again, this is niche, and unless you're trying to face tank like El Hesmin or something, you don't really need all that much chaos rest because we are going to be poison immune thanks to the corrupt on the ring. So I would say it's better off to run a granite or basalt flask. Both of these do about the same amount of physical damage reduction. So our physical resistances are not that much. You can see it's only 55 because I have it configured to a 7.5k hit. So I believe this is the damage of a Minotaur Slam. You definitely cannot tank a Shaper Slam or anything like that. But let's say you get hit by Chayula, which I think his attacks do like 5,000. That's a 65% damage reduction. If you get hit by a 3,000 attack, that's 75% damage reduction. So nothing crazy in terms of physical mitigation, but this will definitely get you by, especially combined with Molten Shell, because now Molten Shell is almost giving you the full effect of 10,000. Yeah, 20% of 45,000, about, yeah, 9,000. 9,000 is almost there. So even though EHP is much lower, I think this is pretty much as good as it's going to get. And that's not taking into consideration the fact that we do have glancing blows. So the block chance, most attacks are physical. Sorry, most physical damage comes from attacks. So that's a 72% chance to half that. So essentially, you are taking at least 50% less physical damage, and on top of that, another, sorry, not 50%, but 35%. So another 35% less from that. I would say you're taking about like 30 to 25% of the full physical hit damage. So with any Mageblood build, you have so many choices of what flask you want to run. I already explained why I'm running these elemental flasks and the granite, but let's talk about the mods. So for all of these, you want the prefix to be an increased effect. So increased effect, it will be increased effect and reduced something else, like reduced duration. The tier doesn't matter because it only affects the duration, it doesn't affect the increased effect mod. So you want that along with the Enkindling Orb that grants you increased effect. Oh, not this. This one. You want increased effect, gains no charges during fast effect, which obviously doesn't matter because we are running Mageblood. So this would overall double the effect of all your flasks. And so for the suffix, you can mitigate basically every ailment, every status condition. These are just the mods that I think work the best with all our pantheons and the corrupts that are available to make us elemental ailment immune and immune to bleed, poison, and all that other stuff. So this one we run increased armor. For this one we run reduced effect of curses, so completely curse immune just from this. We run immunity to ignite, and we also run on the granite, it's down here, we run immunity to shock. And so for chill and freeze immunity, we run Soul of the Brine King Pantheon. This is cannot be frozen, and only 50% reduced effect of chill. So this, you still can get chilled, albeit at 50% reduced effect. This honestly doesn't affect you that much because cast speed is not very important for us as an Ignite build. And if you want to completely mitigate chill, you can get that from various sources like corrupts or implicits from harvest crafts onto your jewels, or you can even get it from one of the flasks and maybe cut the armor or cut shock or something like that. For the other pantheon, you can again run most other things. I'm running Rislatha just to give you life flask during bossing and increase life recovery from flask, but you can get it's like pseudo immunity from other things like Ralakesh, mainly if you don't have a bleed corrupt um, on your ring. This would help you a lot because most bleeds won't be doing too much unless you are moving, and this makes it so that bleeds don't do extra damage while you're moving. Alternatively, if you don't have the cannot be poisoned corrupt, you can run this and run an amethyst flask to cap your chaos resistance. Again, not that many sources of poison unless you are running some weird like sextanted mods or just weird map mods or something like that. But this should pretty much cover you. You're not immune to poison, but you should be able to out regen it with your life flask. So yeah, that's the mirror tier version of this Maw of Mischief build. It scales incredibly well with budget. Um, it really feels like you can just put on a Mageblood onto any build and basically make it top tier. It just does so much for us and solves so many of the game's challenges that we can just, yeah, pretty much take on the entire game. Um, yeah,